Welcome to the Caddo Convos, the podcast that explores the vibrant community of businesses thriving in Caddo Office Reimagined. We're here to shine a light on the incredible entrepreneurs and professionals who make the most of our private offices, co-working spaces, and day office rentals in the Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs. Join us as we share their stories, celebrate their successes, and dive into the benefits of working in a space that's close to home but offers so much more than working from home. Let's get started with today's conversation. So I'm joined today by Dr. Joy Bell, and she's here to talk to all of us about her business. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, tell me, how can you best help your customers and the people you serve?
Well, I have a great opportunity to help kids from sixth grade all the way through adulthood that are struggling with executive function skills. And those can range from time management, procrastination, organization, emotional regulation. So our job really is to come in to support them in whatever spaces that they're having trouble in. And that's really our job, to come, what's happening with you, how can we support you, how can we move you to a more successful space?
What would you say are the problems you're trying to solve?
The problems we're trying to solve is really in the day-to-day. It depends on the client. If you have a child who's a sixth grader who's forgetting their homework every day or having trouble with chores or remembering what in the world their parents told them, we're going to help them there. If you have an adult, you may have someone who's having trouble with project management. They're maybe on the verge of, not losing their job or not being successful in their space. And so it just depends on the age of the client, the need of the client. We identify that, and then we make sure that we help them to be successful.
So, Dr. Bell, what made you start Gray Space Consulting?
I started Gray Space Consulting in 2012. At that point, I'd been in education for about 20 years. I'd been a classroom teacher, served at the university level, and I really just wanted another way to serve more one-on-one in that way. And so Gray Space allowed me to do that. I started Gray Space really with organizations and training teachers who were working with kids with differences. And so that's where it all started.
Great. You offer, I'm looking at your website, you offer a wide range of services that cover the gamut from all age groups and needs. So let's just start. Talk to me about executive function coaching.
So executive function coaching, we sort of take a look at what's going on with the brain. Really, any activity, any behavior that we embark upon really starts in the brain. A lot of times, folks think, well, there's the behavior that we want to see or we don't want to see, but really the beginning process is in the brain. So we work with kids with neurodiversities, ADHD primarily, but you don't really have to have a diagnosis. I always say we're not fully cooked until we're 26 years of age.
Right.
And so we're all going to struggle at some level, but when you have kids with ADHD, they have higher levels of struggle with organization, time management, emotional regulation, all those things that show up inside of their school day, also in their home environments.
Oh, that's terrific. So you have private and public school learning difference consulting. What does that mean?
So typically, when you have to think about in a school, you have the child, but that child is working with an adult. So we want to make sure that whatever environment that child is in, the teachers, the educators, the adults, the facilitators of learning know how best to support them. So we come into schools, private schools, regardless of the label of the school, public schools, and we work with teachers in training to explain to them what exactly is happening with executive function, how can they support the kids, not only the kids with labels or titles or ADHD, but really how can they support all kids learning.
I see also academic coaching from 6 to 12. Everyone is facing academic challenges.
Absolutely. You may have a child that, is struggling with math or maybe struggling with language arts. It may be tied to neurodiversity. Maybe you have a child with ADHD that has trouble organizing their thoughts. That's going to show up in their writing. That's going to show up in their day-to-day. So we find that a lot of times it's all layered and complex, and so we can support whether it's just executive function or it's showing up in an academic way.
What's the youngest age you start with?
Sixth grade.
Okay, so you go from sixth grade, and I'm looking the next step, college success.
Oh my
once
goodness.
You get past high school. Talk to me about your program there.
Absolutely. So whenever there's a lot of things that are happening at 12th grade, 11th, 12th, there's just a lot of transition things that are happening. So we support them. A lot of kids with neurodiverse challenges have a lot of challenges when there's a transition. So we may begin working with them at 9th grade. They're doing great. They know their rhythms. They're organized. They know that system. And now we're going to leap them out into another state, into another environment. So we support that transition. And what does that environment look like? How can we support you to success in this new space?
has AI impacted your business and the dealings of your students? How has AI impacted
That's
what you're
interesting that you asked that question. I don't see it as much, in terms of what I'm doing day to day with students. I'm sure that it will, but I feel like AI in terms of the one-to-one coaching that we give you cannot replicate that. There's a relational part of executive function coaching that I don't believe can be replicated by any sort of AI. Can we provide information to families? Absolutely. Can they feel like they're experts in an area? Absolutely. But there's something that happens in the one-to-one, that coaching, that one-to-one relational piece that really is fundamentally important for the long-term success of our students. So in that space, I don't feel like AI has impacted. I'm sure, there's still time, buddy, right? So I'm not saying that it won't, but right now I feel like parents and families and adults are really looking for someone to sit with them in these spaces to help them with growth over these areas so that they can be successful for the long term.
Have you always wanted to serve and help people learn and grow? Talk to me about, the origin of your career.
Absolutely. I always think that I was likely an undiagnosed ADHDer. I was sort of, in many ways, my sisters would say, of course we knew. You were like all over the place all the time. Like, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
And I didn't really love school. I wasn't successful. And there's people really surprised with that because I hold a doctorate degree. But I became more successful in college when I figured out how I best learned. And then I moved and I was much more successful, right? So I've always had a heart really to understand and help those who were like on the outside of the curve and didn't really dance, the normal dance that everybody else did, with or without a label. I didn't have a label, but I definitely danced my own dance. So my heart has always been to support those who need help that are outside the box.
So there's a lot of challenges with families who the diagnosis versus undiagnosed. What advice would you give to them about, how to and I'm not looking for, your expertise not being diagnosis of, but how would you guide them to get the help they need once they've identified some signs, especially for those who are undiagnosed or undiagnosable, I guess, to get that designation?
Yeah, this is what I say, buddy. You know your child. And I always tell parents that, you have a sense of feeling. Maybe you have two children, and one of the children's like, they don't ever have any trouble with this, but Susie always has trouble. She's always forgetting. So pay attention to your child or children to notice differences. And when you do, talk with their teachers. What are you seeing at school? Talk to their coaches. Are they able to follow instructions when more than one instruction at a time? Or if you give them 3 instructions, do they get lost? If you're playing basketball or volleyball or whatever the case is. So watch your child. Make sure you're paying attention. And when that little parent flag goes up, I would say go to school and ask questions. There's all sort of testing measures in place.
So I know, Dr. Bell, you offer a wide range of services. What is the typical cost for a family that's looking to get involved?
Buddy, that's a great question. We have an initial meeting about 15 minutes for me or my team to find out, what the family needs or the school needs or the organization needs. And so we will have just a meeting that's no cost to the organization or the family. If we have a further conversation, that's typically $150 an hour. We generally don't spend an hour together, generally 30 minutes, that kind of deal. Just finding out what are the needs. Are we a good fit for that family or for that organization or school?
So, Dr. Bell, I know you work with a lot of organizations and families. What are the typical outcomes for a family?
Buddy, when families come to me, they're struggling. They're generally, it's for a long time that their child or now maybe college kid has struggled in different areas and they want them to be successful. So my job and my team's job is really to find out what is going on. How long? What have you done? How can we support you in being successful? A typical success story looks like, I always use the word belonging. As an educator, as a mom, there's generally when families come, it's organization. Yes, it's planning. Yes, we're having trouble with time management. Yes, we're having trouble with work and memory. But more than that, buddy, it's really my child is on the outside. Our family is on the outside. They don't have a sense of belonging. And so at the end of our time together, yes, I want to know that you can find your homework and remember to go to your job and finish your project. But I also want you to feel confident. And so there's a confidence that happens for families when they work with us. Their esteem is up. Their sense of belonging is changed. And I can see that happening over the course of the work together. So success looks like we've got our stuff together now in the major areas for us to be successful humans, but we also have a sense of belonging.
It's like every parenting goal is put yourself out of a job.
Yes.
So they can just go off and succeed on their own. And that's what you're doing for a wide range of people.
Absolutely.
What a wonderful thing to do. You must really enjoy.
I really enjoy it. It's work. I always tell people, when you have coaching, it's so personal. Everybody has a bad day, but when I come to you and when you come to me, I have to come ready, fully open, ready to support you, and I have to put all of my other stuff aside. So it does take a lot of the personal side of me, but I love it because you get to see really the benefit for them in their behavior, in their parents, relief, because I become a partner with the parent. And so I become a part of the village. I always tell the parents, thank you for letting me become a part of your village with your child. I'm not taking over the village, but I'm going to give you some strategies to help the village move a little bit better.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, talk to me about, you mentioned you partner with the parent. Talk to me about the customer journey. How do they engage with you? How do you explain the process kind of for someone who has questions?
Absolutely. So we always have a discovery conversation. And for me, that's really just to find out what's going on, what's happening. Generally, it's referrals or they've seen me somewhere or heard me speak. And I want to make sure that we're a good fit. I'm not a good fit for everyone, and not everyone is a good fit for me. There are tons of executive function coaches, but I want to make sure. And so I meet with if it's a child, 6th grade or 12th grade or under, I meet with the parent, buddy, and then I make sure, what's happening, what's going on, what are some things that you're seeing, what are some things that you're concerned about. So we work through that during the discovery phase. I tell them a little bit about my process, my philosophy of learning, and that we're not fixing their child, they're not broken. My job is really just to come and provide them strategies and make sure that they understand what they're signing up for. Because if they feel like my job is to fix their child, we're not going to be a good fit. So once we get past that little discovery, I always ask to then speak with the child. So we'll have a separate meeting with the child and the parents, depending on if it's sometimes it's age and those kinds of different things. And I want to talk with them. And if they say, well, you know what, my mom said for me to come, but I don't want to be here. Okay, well,
that's probably all of them.
That's all we need to know.
Right.
And I tell the parents that because really the work is between me and their child.
Yeah.
So we can't. It's hard enough. So if you're there and you don't want to be there, it's going to be harder than it needs to be. And so generally the conversation will stop. And I've had a couple of those, but generally we work through while we're there, and they'll say, oh, I'm having trouble with this, and they're able to identify that they need support. Sometimes they don't understand how much support they need, but that doesn't matter to me. The fact that they know that they need support is what matters, and then we can go from there. And then I re-engage, or my assistant re-engages with the family.
Do these take place in person, online? What's optimal?
So both, but I work with people all over the world. I have folks all over the continent. So generally, Zoom is how I will engage with, but I have a physical office here in Texas. And so if families are local, they can come in and meet with me in person. So that's fine as well. So I have most of my clients are virtual, but I also have clients that come in and we meet in person. So it just depends on what the need is and location.
I understand that you're also an advocate for parents who really don't know how to get this process started to start the conversation. How do you do that?
Yeah, a lot of parents, they have kids with, diagnosis already. For example, ADHD, and they may have a 504 plan in the school. Maybe that 504 plan is not really working really well for their child. Maybe their child is still having lots of challenges. And maybe I'm working one-on-one with them with executive function coaching, and they want the teachers to know what I'm doing and how to support. So they will bring me in as an advocate during their 504 meetings or their IEP meetings to really provide guidance for that process, recommendations for accommodations for their child.
And for those that don't know what 504 plan is?
So the 504 plan it's a document that provides accommodations for kids with differences. Your child may have anxiety, they may have ADHD, all sorts of things. And so what happens in a school, they'll provide accommodations like extended time on a test, read instructions to them, different things that will support their success. A lot of times parents don't really know what to ask for, and it's a 2-page document generally. It's a lot happening, and they don't need everything. So they will call us to support them in terms of advocating for their child in those meetings.
That's terrific. So, Dr. Bell, tell me what drew you to the Caddo Office Reimagined space that you're in now.
You know, buddy, as my business began to grow, and we kind of came out of the pandemic world, I loved being home, but after a while, it's like I need not to be home anymore, and actually be in a space that my clients can come and just be more creative. And I began touring facilities, looking for different things. And I'm sort of a creative personality,
right?
So I began, visiting a lot of the Caddo facilities and different spaces and the colors and just the vibe. It's like, okay, I can create here. I can cast vision here. I can grow here. And so it just drew me. And I visited about 4 or 5 places that same day. I was like, I know where I want my home to be.
So to engage you with your many services, if you go to her website, they cover the gamut on just about everything where you need support for your child. How do they reach you?
We have a discovery button, so it's all over the website, so they can just click it. It'll take them right to the Calendly. And they can just click that they want to have a discovery call. I'll show up, ready to talk with them and ready to support their family.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us today on the Caddo Convos podcast. A huge shout out to our incredible network of members for making our community vibrant and supportive. If you're looking to boost your productivity and reduce the isolation of working from home, consider joining us at Caddo Office Reimagined. Our spaces are designed to meet your evolving needs, support remote work, and foster a sense of community that's hard to find at home. Whether you're a startup aiming for growth, a freelancer seeking a professional setting, or a company looking to optimize resources, Caddo offers a perfect blend of flexibility and innovation. By joining us, you'll be a part of a dynamic business ecosystem that helps you thrive. For more information, visit caddooffices.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Caddo Convos.